Hey everyone, I'm back with another gameplay video for Domain Zoo. To start off with the deck tech, we've got the same list I've been using for the last few leagues. I still have Dramoka's Command in the flex slot. In the sideboard, have been testing Prismatic Ending some more in the last two slots. Everything else is unchanged except for I do have Wear Tear instead of Natural State, and that's because Wear Tear is a bit better in the mirror match. You can watch my video talking extensively about how to play the mirror match, but Domain is becoming more common on MTGO and in paper events, so I think Wear Tear is useful to have in the sideboard. Um, so moving on to the league itself, looking at game one here. This was another trophy league from, let's see, I think I started the league on maybe the 12th and then finished it out yesterday. Okay, this is a hand that I'm going to keep. It's I've got two threats and I've got some interaction. I don't have a one drop, so it's not perfect, but it's fine. Definitely not something I would mulligan. Okay, go Prismatic Vista to Island, Hedron Crab, so right away it looks like they're on mill or some kind of dredge. But right now, okay, I know for sure they're on mill. So in the mill matchup, obviously my life total doesn't matter, so I don't care about shocking. And I'm just going to try to basically play my threats as aggressively as I can. I'm going to go for the Scion here because he does play Fatal Push. Some of the lists play Fatal Push, so Scion's useful. It's also good against Drown the Lock, but as you can see, I've already got 21 cards in my graveyard, so I did opt to play the Scion. I just wanted to get a threat down because I need to pressure his life total. But I didn't want to go lead with a removal spell, but then now with Scion on board, and now I can start swinging away with a lot of damage after using Dramoka's Command, and I can keep the Tribal Flames to just deal 5 damage to face. So I wanted to get a threat down, though, because this game could drag on, and I knew he would have some kind of land hate, so Scion is good against land hate. Once you get it down, it won't shrink, like Kavu or Brawler will. So I'm going to just keep dealing a lot of damage to him. He's going to obviously try to mill me out. I've got 15 cards left. He goes with a Fractured Sanity mill. I guess he was probably trying to dig for another spell or mill spell, but I'm just too fast for him. So that game was pretty straightforward. I really only had to play one threat and then just keep swinging away with it. So as you can see, I had a lot of threats in hand, but I didn't end up having to use them at all. So it was an easy matchup for mill. Moving on to game two. So let's see, sideboard against mill. I don't really have a whole lot. Let's see what I take out. Okay, I do take out the Dramoka's Command. I do bring in the Prismatic Endings, and I bring in the Flusterstorm. The idea of the Flusterstorm is I can use it to help counter some of the big mill spells. And Prismatic Ending is good because, especially on the draw, I just want to kill the crabs. So Dramoka's Command is fine. I can use it to kill crabs too, but they don't have any damage-based removal, so it's just not as good, and it's 2 mana. So I'd rather just have that 1 mana removal in addition to Bolt. And I do trim 2 Ragavans because they have the crabs, so Ragavan's not that great. They can usually just just block him with the 0/3 crab. And then I just trim 2 Tribal Flames. Tribal Flames is obviously good in this matchup, but realistically, I'm just going to try to get threats down and do a lot of damage, so it's not as critical. This is a keepable hand. I do have the Bolt, and I've got Leyline Binding, so that's important for that early interaction to kill the crabs. And I've also got a couple creatures, so this is fine. He goes with the crab turn 1. So unfortunately, I have 2 Triomes here. So what I am going to opt to do, because of the unique mill matchup, is I'm going to just kill the crab right away. Obviously, that means unless I draw another fetch, I won't be able to play a 2-drop next turn, but that's okay. I just need to slow down his milling. And I can play it now. Next turn, I can play a Triome and a Binding. I end up drawing another fetch land, but I'm just going to play the Triome and I'm binding the crab. Again, I'm just trying to kill his crabs early, so then he just has to mill me with removal spells. Mill me with the spells, but that's going to take him a lot longer. Unfortunately, he had the 3rd crab, and he's got Field of Ruin, which isn't great for me. I don't have I obviously haven't pressured his life total. I haven't put any threats down. But now I can start throwing threats on the board. I'm keeping that Windswept Heath not cracked because I know he's going to Field of Ruin me. So I want to just fetch in response. I guess I fetch in response to that because I know I have this in hand, so I'm going to try to get him to destroy the land. Let's see what he destroyed. Okay, I grabbed the plains. It doesn't really much matter. I knew I have another Triumph in hand, so I can still get Domain next turn pretty much no matter what he does. So right now, obviously I don't have another removal spell, so I have to just start swinging. I'm down to 27 cards. This isn't great, but I'm going to just start throwing more threats down. I get another Scion. See, he mills me some more. He field of ruins me again, but again, as I was talking about, Scion's very good in this matchup against land destruction because it's still a 4/4. So he does have Jace's Phantasm, which is kind of annoying. Not a card I've seen before, but obviously it can kill my Scion, so it's not great. I'm going to dash Ragavan here and just swing away. Obviously, I know he'll kill one of my Scions, but I just need to put pressure on his life total. I have other threats in hand. I do get a Kavu. He plays another crab, so I'm not in a great position because now my library is starting to get low, and he's got a lot of blockers out. I do top deck a Prismatic Ending, which is very good because I thought for a while whether I wanted to ending his crab or his Phantom, but I decided just to go with the Phantom so I could then swing through for with Scion. And I know he usually doesn't want to block with the crabs here, but I think he's going to just because he doesn't want to get his life total too low. So now he's down to 4, so he's basically dead next turn unless he can mill me for 11. So he needs to top deck a mill spell there, and I guess he doesn't do it. So that was a game against mill, pretty straightforward. Okay, moving on to game 2. Sorry, match 2. Let's see what we got here. So I think mill in general is a pretty favorable matchup because we have a lot of high mana cost cards. We've got Scion, we've got Leyline Binding, and we're also very fast and aggressive, and we've got some interaction too. So I think mill's in general a pretty favorable matchup. This is a fine hand. I've got Kavu, Scion, got some interactions. This is definitely a keep. Okay, this was a weird deck. Obviously he plays a card I've never even seen before, so I have no idea what he's on. Then he plays these Garrison Cat, Doom Travel. I've never seen any of these cards before. So obviously it's some kind of brew or some kind of archetype I'm not familiar with. So at this point, I didn't have a turn 1 play, so I'm just going to fetch the Triome. And then I'm just going to play Kavu. He's our best threat. And then that means turn 3, I can play Scion with either Stubby D or Binding Up. And then Kavu's got First Strike and Trample, so he can do a lot of damage. He plays a Cartel Aristocrat, so this tells me he's on some kind of sacrifice deck with sacrifice synergies. Unfortunate that he's been shocking himself a lot, so you see his life total is already pretty low. He plays a Village Right, so again, some kind of sacrifice deck. So right now, I'm going to just fetch a basic because I'm wary of my life total getting low. I'm going to get Scion to give First Strike and Trample, and then I can loot away some cards. I loot away the Stubby D because he looks like he has mostly creatures, so Stubby D might not be that useful. I'd rather just keep up Binding. Okay, he does have Binding in his deck, so that's interesting. So he binds. My Scion swings with everything. I think I'm just going to go with binding his Binding to get my Scion back, and then I can block one of his creatures. He'll sack it. Yeah, he'll get a Spirit token that he can potentially chump with. So he's got some tokens down, but I'm not too worried about that because, okay, he returns to the ranks. Again, he gets some more tokens, but now he doesn't have any flyers that are untapped. So that means I can swing with everything, which I do. Discard just a land. Okay, he is going to get a flying token. So I get another Scion. Obviously, he just blocks one of them. So I think it didn't matter there. Like, I could have, in response to him creating the token, I could have binded the token, but like I had more with First Strike and Trample. I had more damage in hand than he could stop. So it just something was going to get through, and I had Tribal Flames to finish it. So it's a pretty easy matchup. Okay, sideboarding in this matchup again. I don't really have a sideboard guide for this whatever kind of sacrifice deck this is. So all I do is I cut the Ragavans because they've got so many 1/1s that have sacrifice synergies. So like Ragavan's just not ever going to be able to connect. And I cut the Nicodles. Nicodle's fine, but I'm bringing in Hidetsugu Consumes All because I saw that he had a lot of 1-drops, and he also had some graveyard synergy. So both the chapters of Hidetsugu can be relevant here. So I basically just bring that in, and then I also bring the Prismatic Ending because the Exile can be relevant with, he's got all these sacrifice synergies, but if I can exile things and they don't go to the graveyard or they don't actually die, then it can be useful. So that's why I brought in. I do keep Stubby D in. I could have taken it out, but I saw he had Village Rites. He probably and he had that other whatever the spell is that brings things back from his graveyard. Okay, I think the first hand was too clunky. Second hand, this is fine. I've got some threats and I've got some interaction. Okay, I'm just happy to make that trade. Ragman's never gonna connect in this game. We're just trying to keep the number of threats he has down. He has binding, so now he's swinging for 3. So now, I've got kind of slow hand. It's not a whole lot I can do besides just keep running out threats. Okay, he plays Plumb the Forbidden. I guess it's just a sacrifice, draw a bunch of cards kind of thing, which I was fine with because he pays a bunch of life for it. And then he plays another creature. I was kind of confused by that decision to kind of wipe his own board, but that's what he went for. I wonder if he was digging for another removal spell or something. I'm just going to swing with Brawler. Need to start pressuring his life total. And then now I'm in a pretty good position because I've got both Dromoka's command and Stubby D up. So I'm just waiting to use the Dromoka's command. So I Stubby D, this is return to the ranks. It's a pretty easy call. And then I can just use his Dromoka's whenever I want, which I'm going to just use it. No, I think I let him connect here. It didn't really matter. But I'm going to just get my Kavu back, make him sack his thing, and put a +1/+1 counter on Brawler, and then that was pretty easy. I draw another binding, but it doesn't matter. I guess he was trying to be aggressive, but he didn't realize that I could just, had the Dromoka's command is often a blowout card, so you saw something like that. He had to sacrifice his enchantment, which meant I got my Kavu back, and I could put tokens on Brawler, so pretty easy win there. That was game 2. Okay, moving on to game 3. Okay, this is a one-lander, so I can't keep a one-lander. I have to mulligan this. Okay, this is also a one-lander. Okay, this has some useful land, so I have to keep this. So I think I'm just going to bin the basic plains. This isn't an amazing hand because without the mana base is set up right now. But obviously I don't have much to do here, so he plays a DRC, so I'm thinking he's maybe on Murktide, something like that. Oh, he does have Gigantha, so now I'm thinking he's on Death Shadow. There's not really anything I can do turn 1, so I guess I just have to fetch the Triumph. And then he plays a Shredder. I just get Scion down. And, he's got a lot of stuff going on here. So he just bolts the Scion, discards Arc like Phoenix. So now I know he's on Arc like Phoenix. Yeah, he's on some kind of like Phoenix build sort of thing. So now he's swinging away. Pretty fast start. I think I just hold up Stubby D or Binding here, depending on what he does. He just plays more creatures. So now he's got a really big board built up. Bunch of flyers. So I'm going to just fetch a basic because I'm worried my life total and grab some of this stuff to stay alive. But now there's not really much I can do. I think I just concede there because he's got this whole wide board. So even if I swing with Kavu and he doesn't chump and I draw a card, like I would need to draw like a bunch of removal spells because I don't have any flyers, or I need to draw a Scion, but still it would so there he just had a fast start. There wasn't really much I could do. So then we're on to game 2. Okay, moving to game 2. This time I'll be on the play. Okay, this is a one-lander, so I can't keep that. In terms of sideboarding for this matchup, obviously with some kind of Arc like Phoenix deck, he's trying to get Delirium, things like that. So I'm going to bring in the Rest in Peace. He does have Bolt, so I trim a Neshoba Brawler, and then the other option is I can just trim a Tribal Flames or something like that. I just trim that. I wanted to keep the number of threats in pretty high, especially on the play, and also I just saw that Tribal Flames may not be super relevant because he's going to shock himself a lot and stuff, but it's kind of an aggro deck, so I'm fine with trimming one. The games aren't going to go that long either way. All right, so can't keep the one-lander, so got to ship this. Okay, another one-lander. Can't keep that. And then this hand is fine. I do have Rest in Peace, which is nice. Get my sideboard card in. I have a couple threats, and I think I'm just going to send back the Tribal Flames here and the Overgrown Tomb. because I want to get 4 land types by turn 2. Yep, that's exactly what I do. So now I can just go Windswept Heath, fetch a Triome, and then turn 2 I can actually have 5 colors. So that's what I'll do here. So let's see. He goes DRC. I just fetch a Triome. Here I have the option to play a threat or play Rest in Peace. I just go with playing Rest in Peace. His deck is built around a lot of graveyard synergies, so the risk of me just not doing that and him starting to play a bunch of spells or get Arc like Phoenix or loot away cards, do those sort of things is pretty high. So I'm going to just take away his ability to get Delirium or do really anything with Rest in Peace. In other matchups, you might want to play a creature first to put some pressure on, but I'm also on the play here, so I can afford to play something like Rest in Peace turn 2. Against other matchups, you might have to do a creature first and have Rest in Peace come in later, but that's what I opt for here. And I figure I can just play my creatures next turn, and they'll be safe from Unholy Heat if he's got it. So just play a Kabu. I'm wary of my life total, so I just play a tap land there. And then now he's going to just keep stringing iterations along. And he can get the Surveil triggers, but again, he's not getting any benefits from that because everything's getting exiled. So really his whole deck is built around these kind of Surveil triggers and putting things in the graveyard, but he can't really do that now. I'm just going to bolt one of his DRCs to keep the number of creatures down. He's got a chump, and then I can play another Brawler. He plays some more stuff, trying to loot some more cards away. Again, I'm just going to swing with Kabu. I draw another threat, so now I can just go really wide, play all my threats. And he's at 9 life. He's going to try Faithless Salvaging again. And then he's trying to Manamorphose, probably digging for some kind of removal, consider, and then he just concedes because I just have too much pressure on the board. So that's how you can see like Rest in Peace is some of the best graveyard hate in the format, and there's a reason why we have access to it with the Domain mana base, so that's why it's in for weird matchups like this, among others. They're trying to use a lot of graveyard synergies. Okay, moving on to Game 3. So in Game 3, I'm going to take out 2 Ragavans on the draw and put in the Prismatic Endings. They can just deal with his threats, whatever they may be, DRCs, Shredders, things like that. I like on the draw, I like having a little more removal because Ragavan on the draw, especially against a deck with a lot of creatures, it just isn't that great. It's just you can't get them to connect. That's why I trimmed 2 of them, and then I trimmed the Brawler and Flames just like last time for the Rest in Peace, just because he's a bolt deck and Tribal Flames just you can trim the 4th in a matchup like this. See if I get my hand. Okay, this is not an amazing hand on the draw. It's got 2 threats, but 5 lands. There's no interaction. I'm a little worried in this matchup that if I don't have something to slow him down, then he's just going to go off like he did in Game 1 with like a super wide board. So I think I mulligan this hand, which is it's a little risky. You could argue that you should just keep this hand, but again, it's awkward. Like I have a 1-drop and then a 2-drop, but I can't play my 2-drop if I play my 1-drop. So it's just kind of a clunky hand for a 7. So I figure I could get a better 6. And I do get a better 6. So this is an easy keep. I've got that early interaction, and I've got 1-drops. I've got 2-drops. Kabu's a very good creature, obviously. Also very good because he can exile cards in this matchup. So I'm going to keep this. I think I just put a Kabu back. Okay, he plays DRC. So I could play Nikado here, but I know his deck is built around DRC, so I'm going to just kill it right away so he can't get all those. I don't want him to get all those Surveil triggers with how his deck functions, because that's really what his deck is built around. So I just kill it right away. Play Kabu turn 2. He's holding up something. It looks like maybe he doesn't have another threat. Let's see what he got. Faithless Salvaging, so he's going to start trying to discard cards, get his engine going. Thought Scours, Serum Visions. He's obviously trying to get more stuff in the graveyard, but again, like without DRC, he can't get Delirium. He doesn't really benefit that much from the Delirium, so I'm not too worried. I'm going to just exile stuff to try to make it hard for him to get Delirium. That was the only sorcery he had there. I fetch Overgrown Tomb, so I can deal 5, and I can just double play 2 threats turn 3. So now I just have a lot of pressure on. Like he gets the Phoenix in the graveyard. He gets some other stuff in the graveyard. So now he's got the Phoenix back, but I still have so much pressure that it doesn't really matter. And I can just loot away these lands. That's exactly what I do. So I get a Binding, which is great because I can just Binding his Phoenix, so he can't even block with it. Swing him down to 1, and then I play another Kavu. And then there's nothing really he can do. He's going to probably try to dig for some removal spells, but I've got 4 threats on board, so there's not really anything. Even if he had like a Dress Down or something, which I don't think this deck plays, but he would still leave Nacatl alive. So he would need something like Dress Down along with another removal spell to kill the Nacatl, which he didn't have. So that was a pretty easy game 3 win. But that's an example of how like having that extra interaction with Prismatic Ending or Bolt or whatever on that early game, especially on the draw, can make a big difference in certain matchups. Okay, I'm on the play. Okay, this is a fine hand. I've only got 1 threat, but I've got some interaction. I don't think this is something I would mulligan usually. Obviously, it's not amazing, but I think it's fine. Hopefully, I can draw into some more action. I only have 1 threat, but I'm just going to play my Nacatl turn 1. I note that on the draw, I would not do this because of the risk of Wrenn and 6. So I don't want to play Nacatl as a 1/1 on the draw. On the play, I'm okay with doing it. It ends up that he's on Hammer, so I know he doesn't have any removal, so it's all fine. I do draw Ragavan, which is good. I think I'm just going to jam Ragavan here. So I'm going to put him in a position where he either has to give up his Ornithopter, which is what he does, or I'll get the treasure token, and then I can hold up Bolt. So something important in the Hammertime matchup is you can obviously try to destroy the hammers, or exile the hammers in case of Leyline Binding. That's obviously important. But another way you can control the matchup is by killing their threats early. Because obviously, if they don't have any creatures to equip the hammer to, then they're going to have a tough time. So one way to control their board a bit is to just try to deal with their early creatures so that it makes it harder for them to have something to actually equip the hammer to and swing with. So he does chump with the Ornithopter, which is fine. Again, I wanted to keep numbers of creatures down, especially when I don't have a ton of pressure right now. So I'm going to just dash Ragavan again. I don't really have any big creatures, so don't really have a better play. Let's see what we do. Okay, he plays the Reality Chip, which is interesting. And he's just going to block Ragavan. So that's okay, because that means I can kill his Reality Chip with a Lightning Bolt, which is what I do. And then, so I haven't put a ton of pressure on his life total, but I have killed pretty much all the threats he's played. So he plays Stoneforge Mystic. Let's see what he grabs. He grabs Hammer, puts Hammer in play, equips Hammer. I do have the Leyline Binding in hand, so I think here I'm going to just Binding for 1, pretty easy. Swing for 3, and then I can play Ragavan, I play Scion. Ragavan's mostly here because I want to be able to chump if he maybe he has another creature in hand or something. I guess he could have Ginger Brute, which would I don't know. He could have a combination of things that could kill me, but I at least want the Ragavan here in case I have to chump for some reason against something with the hammer. Then I like to keep my Scion and Nacatl still alive. I'm only at 9 life here, so that is relevant, but it ends up he doesn't have anything else. Like, again, I've dealt with his early creatures, so now he's just got a hammer left. He's got a Springleaf Drum. He's got an Urza Saga, but he doesn't have anything that he can actually equip the hammer to. So this is a pretty easy win, but it just shows how helpful that early interaction is in the Hammertime matchup. In this case, my hand wasn't that fast, right? I only had 1 threat in hand. It was only a Nacatl. I had no 2-drops or anything, so that early interaction is what allowed me to still apply pressure and slow him down enough so that then I could get threats on the board. Okay, moving on to game 2. Okay, sideboarding against Hammer. So the most obvious thing to include is Hidetsugu Consumes All. It's primarily there for the Hammertime matchup. Also there for things like Asmo Food, Prowess, things with a lot of 1-drops, Artifact Affinity, but very, very good against Hammer. So that comes in. Whenever I bring in Hidetsugu, I trim on the 1-drops, because you don't want to end up with a case where you have to wipe the board of your own 1-drops because that's all you have in hand. So I just trim 2 Ragavans, trim 2 Nacatls, and then that's all and then I also bring in So I trim 4 cards, and I'm going to bring in 2 Hidetsugus, and I'm also going to bring in the Wear Tear. That's just so I can smash Hammer, I can smash Urza Saga. Really, the big one is Urza Saga, because you can, 1 mana to Stone Rain Urza Saga is very good. So I just bring in 4 cards for this matchup, and it's pretty straightforward. I could bring in Prismatic Ending, but the fact that it's not instant speed isn't great, and with like all the removal I'm already bringing in, I haven't found it totally necessary, but I think you could make the argument on the draw especially to bring in Prismatic Ending, but I didn't do that in this game. This is a 1-lander, so I can't keep that. This is also a 1-lander. Oh, sorry, this is a 2-lander. So I do keep this. I've got that early interaction with Bolt. I've got Stubby D. I've got some threats, so this is a doable hand. It's not amazing, but I'm going to just put back the Nakatl because I have to either play a Triumph turn 1 or Bolt. So Nakatl's not super great. I end up drawing another fetch land, which is very good because that means now I can... see, he plays an Esper Sentinel. So I just Bolt his Sentinel here. Again, you could argue that, hey, you shouldn't do that because he's going to get the card draw. Maybe I should wait a turn so I have the mana to tap for it. But I really want to play a threat on turn 2. So I'm going to Bolt him and play play my turn 2 threat. And at the very least, that's going to put me ahead because basically, if you think of it like this, yes, he drew a card there, but now I have a big threat on board. He's got nothing on board. So that's like, I think that's pretty valuable. Oh, I think I actually skipped over something. I'm pretty sure. Okay, he chooses to play first. Okay, yeah, this is why this game looks really weird right now. Right, so I was on the draw, remember, but somehow I'm ahead of him on lands. So he actually accidentally clicked through his first turn. So that obviously helped me out, but I don't think it actually was that huge in the game. But anyway, so now I can play my Kavu. So now it's basically like I was on the play again. Okay, he plays Sanctifier and Vect, which normally would be kind of annoying, except for I have Scion, which gives Kavu Trample, so I'm not as worried about Sanctifier. Like, he can block every turn with it, but Kavu will still get through for 3. And I'm going to loot away some lands, get another Scion, which is good. So now I'm in a good position because I've got Kavu, Scion, and Stubby D up. Pretty much whatever he tries to do. He's going to play Cigar's Aid, that's fine. Again, I'm waiting to counter the Hammer or, pretty much the Hammer. So I'm not going to counter the Cigar's Aid. I'm just going to hold up Stubby D. He'll block. He's going to try to flash in. Oh, he's going to Path to Exile. That's easy to counter. So now he's all the way down to 6 already. And again, I've got 2 flyers on board. So even if he does he marches the Kavu, but even if he did the trick, he had Hammer, he just played Nexus. Like, I still had a flyer I could block with. Now he's going to have to chump with a Nexus, and I just draw Tribal Flame, so it doesn't really matter because I'm just going to kill him anyway. So he'll activate the Nexus, chump. He's going to take 4, go to 2, and then I Tribal Flames with Stubby D backup. So that was a pretty easy win. Obviously, it helped my opponent click through his turn, but I still think it's relatively straightforward. And I think the Hammertime matchup with stuff like Hidetsugu in the sideboard and the Artifact Enchantment Hate, although you didn't see it this match, I think the matchup is actually pretty favorable. Okay, so moving on to round 5, the Trophy League. Sorry, the Trophy Match. Okay, I'm on the draw to start out. Okay, this is another kind of weird hand where, I don't love the 5-landers, but in this case I have my best 1-drop and my best 2-drop in hand, so I don't think I can mulligan this. I just hope I draw into more action, or like they're on a deck that doesn't have a lot of removal or something like that. So they play Blackcleave's Cliff, so right now I think they're on like, could be Scam, could be Rakdos midrange, something like that. Grief, so now it looks like they're on Scam. I'm lucky that he has Malka Rebirth, so he comes in with tap, which means I can connect with Ragavan here, so that's very helpful. And I do connect. I get Fury off the top, which I'm not going to play because I want to play my Kavu. And now the race is kind of on. But I've got 2 big creatures on, so let's see if he has a removal spell. He doesn't. He doesn't even have a second land, so this is kind of an example of how sometimes, like, against Scam, you can still just beat them when they turn 1 Scam you. Because, okay, he tries to kill the Ragavan. So now I'm doing 7 to him every turn, and I'm getting treasure tokens, and I get a Thought Seize, so I'm just going to Thought Seize him. Okay, so here are my options. I kind of skipped ahead there. So my options to Thought Seize him. Okay, so here's what says is in their hand. So they had a Fury, Fable, and the Mirror Breaker. So my thought was, okay, well, he only has 1 mana, so I'm gonna just take the threat that he can play right now. Like, obviously, I don't care about Fable; he's not gonna be able to play that for 2 turns. I'm just gonna take Ragavan because I don't want him to like chump my Ragavan with his Ragavan, be able to slow me down enough to start playing his other stuff. That was actually a mistake because if you see, he has 2 Fury. So if he draws, obviously, if he draws a an Undying spell, then I'm in big trouble because he can just wipe my board, and then that's bad. But if I take one of the Furies, it means, obviously I'm still screwed if he draws an Undying spell, but it means he can only Fury me once. The problem with not taking the Fury is that if he draws another red card, he can double Fury here and then wipe my board, and then he still has Grief on board to swing through. So I actually punted there. I should have taken one of the Furies, because that way, even if he draws another red card, all he can do is he could play Ragavan and he could Fury me. But he again could kill my Ragavan with the Fury, but he can't kill Kabu. So yeah, so that was actually a mistake, and you'll see why in a moment, because he's just going to double Fury me and wipe my board. Because he drew, I guess he drew another red card. Let's see what he exiled. Yeah, he drew a Kolaghan's Command. So now things aren't looking great, right? I have nothing on board. But I do draw a Brawler, which is good. And I can grab Gigantha, because next turn I can cast Gigantha, I can fetch a basic here. So I'm actually in a pretty good spot. This is a matchup where Gigantha is very good. Any sort of hand disruption. I do draw Dromoka's Command, so I can just kill his Brawler, swing in, and I don't even need to play Gigantha yet. Just put the Triome in play, because I want to preserve my life total. I don't want to go to 3, because he top decks Bolt. And right now, my Brawler's 6/4, which means he has to top deck. He had 0 cards in hand, so he has to top deck basically Terminate. I think it's the only card that can save him, or obviously something that can, like, chumping wouldn't work because it's a 6/4. So yeah, he basically would have had to grab to get like Terminate or Fatal Push if he runs it. So that was pretty easy finish there. I was fortunate to top deck Brawler into Dromoka's Command, so that was very good. So even after punting, obviously I would have been in a much better position if I'd taken one of the Furies, and then he would have just killed my monkey probably with Fury, but that wouldn't have been that big a deal. Okay, so moving on to Game 2. Trophy match. Sideboarding against Scam. So I am going to bring in a Veil of Summer. So I do trim a Neshoba Brawler for a Veil of Summer. On the draw, Veil of Summer, like sometimes I'll just bring in 1. It's obviously a much better card on the play because it allows me to stop I can scam in, or I can Veil of Summer in response to like Scam Grief or something. On the draw, it's not as good, so I just bring in 1 Veil of Summer. So I just bring in Rest in Peace because it turns off all his Undying stuff. It turns off stuff like Kroxa, like, Season Pyro, Escaping, things like that. So, and turns off Undying. So I bring in 2 Rest in Peace for 2 Ragavans. Again, Ragavan on the draw, not great. So that's the reasoning behind that. I do keep the Dromoka's Command in. Dromoka's Command obviously good against burn spells and also good against Blood Moon, which I know they run. You could argue to bring in something like, you could bring in Wear Tear against Blood Moon, but I think it's a little too narrow for this matchup. Like, it doesn't hit anything except for Blood Moon. So that's what I brought in. So bring in a Veil of Summer, take out a Brawler because they have Bolt. So Brawler dies Bolt, and I take out 2 Ragavan for Rest in Peace on the draw. So looking at my hand, this hand is fine. I've got a couple threats. I've got some interaction. We'll see how destroyed it gets by Grief or Thoughtseize or whatever, but this is an okay hand to start. He goes turn 1 Thoughtseize, which is fine. He's going to take the Ragavan. Okay. We're going to go Breeding Pool. Play Nacatl 1/1. Again, I know he doesn't play Ren 6, so Nacattl's going to die to removal spell. It does. Fatal Push. So now I draw Kavu, very strong. I could have waited here. Like, you could say, hey, I've only got, that's my only threat right now, so maybe I should hold up. I should wait until I have Stubby D up to protect Kavu. The problem with that is, like, with how much discard stuff they have, I don't love just trying to hold a Kavu in hand. And Stubby D doesn't stop anything. Like, if they scam grief me, like, I can stub it, but I don't have any creatures in play, so like they'll just pay the tax. So I don't really get anywhere by just waiting a turn. So I'm gonna just play a Kavu. I have this uncracked in case they go Blood Moon or something like that. Then I can just fetch like a basic forest and be in okay shape. I have Ragavan in hand for that too. But now I can just swing with Kavu. He doesn't have a removal spell for it. I'm gonna just exile Thoughtseize because I like my hand. Okay, now I just grab the Triome. Like, I'm not as worried about Blood Moon anymore because now I have the Kavu alive with Stubby D. So even if he just tries to jam Blood Moon this turn, which he missed a land drop, so but maybe he gets the land drop and tries to jam Blood Moon, I can just Stubby D it. So I'm in pretty good shape. Instead he dashes Ragavan, which is also fine because I got Bolt in hand. So I'm just gonna kill his Ragavan. And now I think he's just stuck on 2 lands. And now I'm in a good position. I draw Binding, which is strong. I'm just gonna dash Ragavan. He can't do anything. I'm gonna hit him for 7. And then maybe I can get a Bolt or something off the top of his deck. I just exile a card. Obviously I could discard a Stubby D here and try to draw Bolt. But I don't do that. Maybe that would have been the smarter play. It would have killed him this turn if I managed to top deck Bolt. Anyway, so I get a Fury off the top of his deck that doesn't do anything, but then he takes a draw step and he doesn't have anything to answer it. Answer Kavu. So this is a good example of, like, sometimes your opponent, like, yes, your creatures all die to removal, but like sometimes your opponent only has 1 piece of removal. So my guess is maybe he kept a 2-lander with Blood Moon in it, thinking like Blood Moon's very good, which it is good against our deck. But then he got stuck on 2 lands. So maybe it was something like that, or maybe his hand was just like 3 drop. He had like Season Pyro and stuff like that in his hand, and just couldn't get the 3rd land. But that was a pretty easy win there. Against Scam is always iffy. It just depends on what they have. If they have the strong hand, if they just destroy everything. But I will say Giganta helps a lot against Scam, just because against all the discard spells and stuff, it's really nice to just have a threat you can always grab when you need it. So that was a league, 5-0. I think I only lost 1 game the entire league. The list felt good. I'm still unsure about Prismatic Ending. If we go back to the deck, I know that sorry, all over the place. Here we go. Yeah, so if we go back to the deck list, I know that another guy who big proponent of this deck, Dak Faden07, you can check out his YouTube videos. He's at one time switched to, he took out the Veil of Summers and is running Hushbringer. I think I might try taking out the Prismatic Endings and running Hushbringer. Hushbringer is good against, it can be used against the Scam matchup, but it's really good against any kind of like Omnath elemental decks. And I think those are sometimes matchups that we struggle a bit with, but it's kind of uncertain because the Omnath decks are still, since the year-in banning, they're still trying to figure out what they're doing. So you have some versions that are more control with Kahira, you have the Karuga versions, things like that. So I might test Hushbringer. I haven't ever tested it before. I like Prismatic Ending, it's good, but I don't know that it's absolutely necessary with how much removal our deck already runs. It's just kind of like a nice to have in certain matchups. But let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you enjoy this type of content, and I'll try to put out some more regular gameplay videos to show how to play Domain Zoo. Thanks for watching.